1 in 9 New York City students can't find a place to live, and they're living on the streets. Hey, everybody, you're watching Bull Boom Bear Bust. This is crazy, but it's true. And we've said this all along here on this channel that the crisis, the housing crisis, the unaffordability, it's just going to get worse unless we have some sort of crash. And for that, we need deflation. And we've got a lot of forces that are trying to prevent that from happening. So expect this to get a lot worse. But here's some real recent news, some of it more recent than others, because we reported on this about 1 or 2 months ago about the situation in New York City and how many hotels are being used now to house the homeless. And it's not just the homeless people that you would expect, it's now students. And it's a lot of students here. Let's go ahead and bring up an article on this one here out of Spectrum here. 1 in 9 New York City students homeless last year. Wow. Imagine trying to do homework and you don't have a place to live. You're living on the streets, or you're in a shelter, or where do you go? You in a dumpster? I had a hard time doing my homework, and I did have a home. How do you do homework if you're a student? How do you do homework if you're homeless? I don't understand this. Quote, students who are homeless in New York City could fill Barclays Center 6 times. It's a big arena. That's a record high according to analysis and advocates. Almost 120,000 students experienced homelessness during the last school year. Folks, this is insane. Insane. And guess what? The solutions that they're trying to find to fix this, like rental controls, things like that, are just going to make it worse. There's going to be more government housing that's going to have to pop up. More landlords are going to have to accept the government vouchers and things like that. And guess what? Prices are not going to go down because landlords that have a guaranteed rental income from the government, they're not ever going to drop their rents. Of course, the government might say you can only charge so much, but that's going to take up a lot of housing when you have that type of program. And that means people that actually pay the rent and don't want to get something for free or a handout, they're going to be the ones paying the higher prices. Because what's this going to do? Is it going to make more homes become available? No, it's going to make the shortage even worse. Record number of asylum seekers pushes New York City's student population to homeless record high. And pretty soon these asylum seekers are going to be having to go seek asylum somewhere because the US is going to be so bad. I mean, it's already getting there, and it's already there if you look at New York City. And I read somewhere that 80 something hotels are being used to house people that have come here for asylum. And these migrants, they're going to, I think, get a rude awakening that, the US is not the dream that they might have heard about, maybe what they heard on the, what they watched on the TV. You watch a TV show, a sitcom, everything looks good, everything's fine. You don't see the carnage on the streets. But people thinking that New York City is this great place, yeah, it's a great place if you're already rich, if you're an entertainer, if you're making a lot of money. But there's a lot of things happening in New York that I wouldn't want to face. And I'm in California, and California's got a lot of problems, on our own here. But New York City, that's a whole different level of problems, if you ask me. Well, let's see. There might be a solution here. Take a look at this. How much New York's minimum wage will increase? January 1st. So they're going to have a minimum wage increase in New York. That's going to fix all the problems, right? New York City will raise minimum wage to $16 an hour. Folks, you can barely get an apartment for less than $4,000 a month in New York City. They're thinking $16 an hour is going to do something. As well as $15 an hour elsewhere in the state. The 2024 increases will be followed by a 50-cent, that's hourly, 50-cent annual increase in both 2025 and 2026. Ooh, 50 cents an hour. That's awesome. So, you're going to be making an extra, $300 a year, something like that. Completely ridiculous. Actually, doing the math here, that's about $20 a week, 50 cents an hour, right? So a year, you might be getting an extra $1,000. That's not going to pay for even 1 month's rent. So these raises, 50 cents is going to give you an extra $1,000 a year in a city that's got a $4,000 average apartment price, right? This is insane. First of all, I don't know what's more insane. The people trying to fix this, coming up with more problems or making more problems, or the people that still want to live in New York City. Now, here's the thing, a lot of the jobs are in the cities. That's where you get the most economic activity, right? You have the most people living there. So, obviously, you've got millions of people swiping credit cards. So, a lot of jobs are going to be in New York City. But if your job is making a fraction of what it costs to actually pay the rent, to pay housing, what good is it? I would rather move to Boondocks, Tennessee. That's probably not a real city. I just made that up. I would rather live in Boondocks, Tennessee. Well, they just had a lot of tornadoes there. Anyways, I would rather live in a very small town in the country versus New York City. Even when I moved to San Diego, I knew I didn't want to be downtown, and this was back in 2000. And downtown was pretty nice back then. It's still nice now compared to some other cities, but it's getting pretty bad in San Diego downtown as well. And even walking by Petco Park, there's this kind of smell. I would call it more of a stench. And a lot of people that were hanging out there, I think, were kind of living there as well in the alleys, on the streets. And so it's bad wherever you go. All the cities. I wouldn't want to be downtown in any city right now, but there's still um, the majority of jobs in the city. That's why in 2020, one of the things that I thought was, you know, positive, and there wasn't many positives to take out of what happened in 2020. But one of the positives was the work at home trend, where people didn't have to go commute. You could save a lot of gas. You can save a lot of money, not having to go out to eat, not having to pack a lunch, not having to, of course, the commute, get dressed, all that stuff. The work at home thing I think was pretty awesome. But now you've got a lot of companies calling people back, which is ridiculous when you think about it, because if you're looking to cut down on the fuel consumption and go green and all this good stuff, right, to help the environment, why not have people stay at home? And that's much less cars on the street, much less traffic, much less pollution. But yet you still have these companies saying, nope, you need to work in the office because it's our company culture. We need to look out for the culture. And, people get more done when they're in the office. I think it's just the opposite. When I'm in the office versus working at home, I get a lot more done working at home because I feel better. I'm happier working at home. I have a lot more freedom. And I'm not talking about my work here on this channel, putting out videos. I'm talking about my full-time regular job is working at home. So I work for an awesome company and happen to be in the financial sector as well. But anyways, it's interesting though that with all these issues in every city, housing shortage, unaffordability, uh, record numbers of people can't afford housing, living on the streets, living in shelter, and they still want people to drive into the city where most jobs are, anyways, and work from the office. Absolutely insane what these solutions end up doing. They end up causing more problems. And let's take a look here. I was pretty close. The average of December, as of December this year, New York City, 3,646 per month. When you rent an apartment, you can expect to pay a little over 3,000 per month for a studio, 3,646 for a one bedroom, 5,000 wow for a two bedroom apartment. I read a story that people were actually converting closets into separate living units and renting them out. That's how crazy it is in New York City. And let me try to find the story here real quick for you. Oh, it's worse than I thought. I'm sorry. It's worse than I thought. It was a bathroom. It wasn't an apartment. He turned a bathroom in New York City to an apartment. Cash Jordan on YouTube. I've seen some of his videos. If you want to see what's happening in New York, Cash Jordan, check it out here. Someone built an apartment inside a bathroom. Worse than a closet. That must have been a nice conversion. Like, where do you find a bathroom big enough to put a bed? Or maybe you just don't sleep, right? If you rent that apartment, maybe you just have to sleep like the cows do, standing up. Insane, folks. I mean, what do you think about this? New York City, complete insane asylum, if you ask me. And nothing's really being done to address the issue here. In fact, everything that I'm seeing says it's going to get worse and a lot worse. So we're headed for some major, major turmoil here in the U.S., folks. The big cities is where it starts, but then you're going to see all this expand out to the suburbs, eventually out to the country. If you're in the country, though, I think you're in a better place. The problem is, where are the jobs out in the country? When you have all the people swiping credit cards downtown, most of the jobs are going to be downtown. So that's the way the economy works here. People that run up this debt, swiping cards, spending money, typically in the metropolitan areas. That's where the jobs are concentrated, folks. So that's why we see so much happening in the cities. What's the solution, people? I don't know. You tell me. I've tried to come up with solutions here. I think we should have massive um, housing built in smaller homes. Like some of these people are so crazy, they have mental issues. Some of these people living on the streets that even if you gave them a house, either one, they wouldn't want it because they want to be out looking for their next hit, or two, they would probably burn it down because they're so out of their mind and so hooked on this and that and whatever right. So let me know down in the comments, what's the solution? Would you live in New York, and do you live in New York? If you live in New York, I'd really like to hear from you. Thanks everybody for being here. We're going to wrap this one up here, kind of a laid back, more chill Sunday episode here today, without talking about some of the usual financial economic news here. What do you think about it, everybody? Thanks for being here. Talk to you soon. Peace.